right, my name is Adrian Plank, candidate for the 47th House District. We've got this news conference going on that's been developed by Renee Hoagenson, who is running for the 4th Congressional District, and we'd like to have her come up and speak.
Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you members of the press. Thank you for my colleagues and fellow candidates for state legislative offices. I'm going to take these off so I can see what I'm doing here. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about right to work, wages, and the worker's voice. Last August, I personally walked to the Secretary of State's office with several thousand working Missourians to deliver 300,000 signatures in order to put right to work on the ballot and give Missourians an opportunity to vote on legislation that would affect their wages. In October, the sitting representative in Missouri 4 ignored this message from Missourians and signed on to co-sponsor the national right to work in Congress in an apparent attempt to circumvent the voice of the people. In spite of having over 3 times as many signatures as needed to bring this to a vote, Representative Hartzler was happy to take that decision out of the hands of working Missourians, the very people that right to work legislation directly affects, and have the federal government make that decision for all states and all workers. Currently, there are 27 right-to-work states. This is far from a mandate in the U.S. Why would Representative Hartzler want to take this out of the hands of the states and make this a decision in the federal government? Why would she want to pass legislation that is clearly not beneficial to the majority of the citizens she was elected to represent? In the most recent election held this month, voters resoundingly voted down right to work in Missouri with a 67% majority. However, should the National Right to Work Act pass in Congress, this voice of working Missourians will be moot. All the work of the Vote No on Prop A campaign will have been for nothing. All the money spent, all the time thousands of Missourians spent educating people on right to work and Proposition A will have been wasted because Representative Hartzler wants to take that power out of the hands of Missouri and give it to the federal government. If Ms. Hartzler has her way, there will be no more fight for Missourians' wages. The game will be over. Checkmate. The fight will be finished. Many of us understand why right to work is harmful to all working families. I will hit a few facts as a reminder of what it means to be a right-to-work state and why this legislation is important to working families. In a right-to-work state, a worker can apply for employment in a company with unionized employees and opt not to join that union and not pay the union dues. However, the union is still obligated to organize, lobby, and represent such a worker without their funds. So the net effect is that unions have less resources and are disempowered in lobbying for workers, which means that the voice of the worker is ultimately disempowered. This is why we see lower wages in right-to-work states. And wages in right-to-work states are lower for all workers, union and non-union alike, by almost $9,000 per year. Workers in right-to-work states are less likely to have health insurance, and they have higher incidence of accidents and job fatalities. Right to work reduces the resources that unions have to bargain for workers and put pressure on employers. When unions are able to get higher wages and working conditions for all workers, this raises the bar for all workers, union and non-union. Proponents of right to work are largely corporations who don't want to pay living wages to employees. The outcome of right-to-work legislation is that right-to-work states indicate that this is good for corporations with rising profits and stock prices, but it is bad for Americans who have depressed wages. Corporations are not interested in American workers retaining bargaining power to have higher wages and better benefits. There is a direct correlation to the decline of union membership over the last 40 years and wages. In the 70s, 35% of workers were union workers. American wages were almost twice as high as they are today in today's dollar for the same output. Whether a worker is union or not, all workers benefit from unions bargaining for higher wages. Co-sponsoring National Right to Work benefits companies that don't pay living wages. Ms. Hartzler has made several votes that call into question her priorities and as to who she is really representing in Congress. Ms. Hartzler voted to allow employers to decide whether to pay an employee in overtime and time off or in dollars. She voted for a tax reform that increases wealth to the wealthiest 1% while hurting working families ultimately through higher taxes and higher insurance premiums and blow up the national debt to unprecedented levels. And then let's talk about the Farm Bill. We are not a wealthy district. Our rural district is made up of blue-collar, regular working people and their families. Approximately 30% of this district is food insecure, which means that those families don't know when they're going to eat again. That means 51,307 children look at their school lunch and don't know if they're going to eat again. On this farm bill that Hartzler helps craft, she realizes $1 million in farm subsidies while she votes to make it harder to qualify for these food stamps. In addition, in her statements, she has implied that those who are underemployed simply need a good kick in the pants to get them motivated to get out of poverty. So in addition to supporting legislation and tax reform that further increases the wealth of the top 1%, she shames those who are working 60 hours a week because they need assistance. If we don't want people on assistance, we need to help them not need assistance by insisting that anyone working 40 hours a week can make a living for their family and protecting wages and respecting our workers' voices. I believe that we should not have to fight our government to keep them from passing legislation that is harmful to average people. Again, I want to reiterate, in spite of having voted no and defeating right to work, there is a national right to work bill on the floor co-sponsored by Ms. Hartzler, which would end the fight over right to work and finish it. I encourage every working Missourian to research this and vote to protect your wallet from this current Congress. End right to work and finish the job this November with your vote for a new Congress. Today, I'm going to announce my support of the anti-corruption bill in the Senate that was introduced into the Senate this last week. Should I be elected to Congress, that bill make its way to the House or one like it, I will work to pass it and end the corruption in Washington. This bill would provide mechanisms to ensure that our government is focused on the people of this country as it was intended. Getting our government back on track to serve the people of this country is the why and why I am running for Congress. Again, I thank you for coming today, and I'll take any questions anyone has.
So where does the right to work bill, the national right to work bill stand? Is it, you say it's in Congress, but is it in committee? Is it on the floor? And who's the original sponsor of this legislation?
You know, I don't remember the original sponsor, but I can tell you that every single month since it was introduced in February of 17, it has continued to gain sponsors. And in fact, in August alone, it gained 2 additional sponsors. In July, it gained 4. I believe in June, it gained another 3. So it's continuing to gain support in Congress. I don't know that it's much farther than that, but I just want to bring attention to it and make people aware of it. Because we have done a lot of work in Missouri 4 and in Missouri at large to protect workers' wages. And I just want to make sure that people are aware that this is going on in our federal government.
I appreciate your efforts towards the right to work, and it sounds like you're well educated on that end of it, and we appreciate that. We really do. Talk to you on the phone and some of your representatives, and I know you're staying in touch with all of us. And, that goes a long way with, I'm with organized labor, I'm a carpenter by trade, business representative for several years, so I understand what the battle is. We won a major battle right now, but the war's not over with. As you say, statewide or nationally, either one. Another battle we've got is going to be prevailing wage in the state of Missouri. Kansas had one of the oldest prevailing wage laws in the nation, and they got rid of it several years ago. I've not seen anything good come from Kansas lately. They're almost broke, as a matter of fact.
Well, Kansas never had a bad idea. We didn't try.
That's about right. I'd like to know your feelings on prevailing wage, because, they're trying to gut it, and that'll eventually lead to weakening, organized labor's power too, as far as negotiating contracts or our ability to get jobs even. If it's not a level playing field, even when it was passed under Republican administration, I might add, back in the late 29s and 30s, they knew the idea that employers would take advantage of employees. And that's what these protections are for, strictly, basically.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. We need to protect prevailing wage. We need to protect all workers in their ability to work together against those who are essentially more powerful than they are. And I know that recently, in this last year, I believe it was, our prevailing wage laws have shifted so that we have, instead of whole projects, we have I want to say a ceiling of $75,000. So it basically, again, in an effort to disempower and break apart so that they don't have to pay prevailing wage for those segments of the job. So, I think part of it goes back to your philosophy about what our role in government is. And, apparently we've got politicians or elected officials who feel that their job is to make a buck on everything and to help Wall Street make a buck on everything. But when the majority of Americans are suffering, as they are now and continue to suffer, my own personal feeling is that the government's role is to serve the people, as how I read in the Constitution and the Federalist Papers. So, I love capitalism. I'm an entrepreneur by trade. And I think that there's a place for that, and I think it's a wonderful system by and large. But I think that we need to realize that our government needs to step in and ensure that individuals and workers are protected in the system. And our current Congress is not that interested in doing that. And that's partly why we need a different Congress.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Frank?
I would just ask the facetious and sarcastic question that I've asked my state representatives: whatever happened to local control? We had a vote, that's about as local as you can get, and local control seems to be something that's mouthpiece only, and that's my attitude. I did some rough figuring at home. It took me about 3 or 4 minutes, I guess. If we raised the minimum wage from the 1969 levels to where it is today, just that would add about $5,000 a year to the typical family of 4 for their full-time minimum wage employee. And I don't see these we was promised a $4,000 raise in the family income with this tax bill. I haven't seen a bit of that come through yet. I think 4% of the workers are getting a raise as a result of this tax bill.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, you said a lot there, but I 100% agree with you. And as far as the tax bill goes, there are a few people who are going to be gaining anything at all. Of course, we know that those benefits expire in about 3 years. But what people don't realize is on the back end of that, because the mandate of the ACA was relieved or alleviated, I guess, we're already seeing increased insurance premiums across the board. So that tax reform is costing the average American worker today and will continue to cost the average American worker and the federal coffers. In about 5 years, we will have so much national debt over this tax reform that we will only be able to pay the debt service on it. We won't be able to even touch the principal. So it's completely fiscally irresponsible, which addresses your other point, essentially the hypocrisy of this Congress. They want small federal government until it benefits them. It's just hypocrisy. So we need to be more principled, and again, in my mind, it should all be focused on how do we help human beings.
What is your response to the argument that right to work brings more business to Missouri?
Well, if it does, which the statistics that I've read would indicate that that's not actually accurate, but if it does, you're bringing in companies that literally their goal is to simply pay lower wages for the work, which is not beneficial. And then another thing that we see along those lines is they're the first companies that are willing to go overseas for even cheaper labor. So it's a business that we want? Probably not.
I'd like to add to that.
Yeah.
The party in control, they always say that you're trying to create jobs. And I think that if you're trying to create jobs off the backs of working families to lower wages overall, that's not the way to create jobs. Creating jobs is bringing in new industries and new opportunities. And there's ways to do that. There's many ways to do that. You can create new farming industries with hemp, and there's even a legalized medical marijuana that could create jobs. So there's ways to create jobs without stealing our bootstraps. So our unions need to be as strong as ever now, especially in the height of Citizens United, where the very wealthy can buy our government.
And are buying our current politicians. I just want to add a note while I'm thinking about it, but we have debates set up with Representative Hartzler that I'd like to announce right now and officially invite her and her staff if they are watching. But September 17th, we will have a debate at in Warrensburg at the college there at Central Missouri University, and the 19th here in Columbia at MU. And so we'll be releasing more of those details, and we'll also have more debate dates set up in the next few days. So I look forward to talking with Mrs. Hartzler one-on-one and answering your questions with her here as well. Well, thank you everyone for coming out today. I appreciate it very much, and please share the message with those in your work environments and your families. Let people know that this is happening, because I think that it's something that everyone should be paying attention to and alarmed about, considering that we just voted August 7th to protect our wages. So thank you for coming today, and thank you to the media.
Jamie Blair.
Hi, I'm running in the 43rd. That covers all of Audrain County and a big swath of Callaway, northern and eastern Callaway.
Adrian Plank, House District 47. It gets basically from Columbia to Moberly, gets Rocheport, Harrisburg, and Higbee, and pretty rural.
One of the reasons I wanted to invite the state representatives is 2 days after Right to Work was voted down, we had state representatives, current state representatives, who came out and said they were going to continue to submit this legislation until it passes. Again, completely ignoring a pretty serious vote from the public. So I wanted to invite the state representatives so that you can get to know them as well.
I am Lisa Burr, and I'm running for District 49. It's Callaway from Kingdom City down into a little bitty part of Cole County.
And Michaela Skelton, I'm running in the 50th House District, which is southern Boone County to include Ashland, Hartsburg, a little bit of Columbia, and then small pieces of Cole, Cooper, and Montauk counties, because we have also a gerrymandering problem here in Missouri.
Okay, well, does anyone have anything else? Okay, well then thank you again for coming today. I appreciate your attendance.